Will this be found?
This will be found at thetechguyblog.com, and we are now live. And I am with Connor Wolf from Inside Sources, who's here as credentialed press. Connor, tell me a little bit about Inside Sources.
Inside Sources is a DC-based publication that covers national and some local politics. I personally cover labor, business, and financial regulations, basically workers and the economy.
All right. What brings you to CPAC today? What are you going to be covering here at CPAC?
But this is an important point in kind of the political discourse when we're talking about the economy and workers. Obviously, President Trump has made workers a very important part of his agenda. So what I'm here to do is talk with people in the crowd, conservatives, libertarians, Republicans, the people that come to this convention, and ask them about the important labor issues of the time, both the administration, how the administration's doing on helping workers, whether they're approving of the job so far, and just general questions like that. Another thing I want to get into is a case Monday. The Supreme Court is going to be hearing Janus v. AFSCME. It's a case on whether to outlaw mandatory union dues in the public sector. I want to ask people in the crowd what they think of that case and how they think the justices should rule.
All right. Now, obviously, you've been covering the labor issues for a little while. From your coverage, not counting the coverage you're going to be doing here at CPAC, what is the impact? Because Trump, it seems to me that President Trump has really pushed the idea of jobs back in America, tax cut, a little more money in the paycheck. Has that made an impact with labor, especially when you consider that labor is a traditional Democratic constituency?
You pick out a couple interesting points. As a matter of fact, Trump won former Obama districts in some important swing states. So the idea of the workforce gravitating towards a politician that they believe is going to help them, at least to some degree, defies party lines. So yes, while a lot of the workforce and workforce issues were traditionally something that Democrats would pursue very hard, Trump has obviously pursued it just as hard and taking a slightly different route. He argues that he wants to directly help workers when the Democrats have traditionally argued they want to help workers, and they also want to preserve unions because unions, they argue, is essential to protecting workers. So the difference there is, while they both care about workers, Trump seems to care a bit less about unions.
So it's more focused on the worker itself rather than the political entity.
Well, I wouldn't say that, because Democrats obviously talk a lot about workers directly as well, but they have the union component as well, seeing that as a critical part of protecting the workers.
Now, have you reported at all about the conundrum for Democrats because of Trump flanking them in terms of workers?
We're a bit too early at this point to really see where the dust will settle. It's starting to settle. Trump's obviously a bit more than a year in office, about a year and 1 month. The dust is starting to settle, but there's still a lot of political upheaval. And there's still a lot of contention on a lot of different issues, especially when the economy is involved. Obviously, Trump is very stern on particular parts of his agenda, and he wants to pursue those other parts. But he's also been showing that he's willing to negotiate and be a little bit flexible on other issues that involve workers. So it really, I think the best way to really judge the Trump presidency is as it's happening and in retrospect, because a lot is happening at once, and that's just the nature of it.
Okay, now you're not allowed to express a political opinion, so I can't ask you the questions I would normally ask. So there's one question I think I would be allowed to ask, and you can tell me if it's allowed or not. Given your reporting from what you're seeing right now, we got a big election in the fall. From what you're seeing, what do you say the odds are of the Democrats taking one or both? I don't think they have a chance of taking the Senate because of the number of seats involved that they have defending in red states. But what do you say, as of this moment, the odds are of them taking the House, needing 25 seats?
I'm not sure I would put odds on it. I'm not a betting man, but what I will say is it's going to be an uphill battle for both sides. Basically, both sides have some things happening to them that aren't good. And they also have things that are happening to them that are good. Democrats have a lot of momentum on the social front. People are out in the streets protesting against the president. People are angry at the president. That's going to be good for the Democrats and possibly the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. Republicans have a few good things as well. Their tax reform law seems to it's starting to become popular. We'll see where that goes, but there seems to be a turnaround. That will obviously help in the midterms if people like the tax reform law. The deregulation is probably something that's not going to be impactful in the election sense, but if they keep going down that route, it will help, assuming that it reaches their goal of creating economic stimulus and all that stuff. Basically, if they're able to stick to the economy and to their basic core promises, they can do a pretty good job. But at the same time, Democrats have a fighting chance, and they just need to create a clear message and just learn from the mistakes of the presidential election and maybe focus more on workers.
All right. And if people want to find your coverage, where can they go?
You can go to InsideSources.com, or you can find me on Twitter at Connor in the News.
Connor Wolf, thank you so much for your time. You have a great CPAC.
Thank you.